What is up YouTube, it's your boy Diamond Boss and welcome to another video. Today I present to you my Ancient Gear Infinitrack deck profile for the Legend Anthology event. If you like this type of video, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe for more deck profiles similar to this. And stay tuned for more because we do have other decks coming soon, especially with the new Synchro event coming soon, which is on the 19th. So please stay tuned for that because that you might see a deck profile related to that coming soon, which is the long anticipated Water Synchro deck profile. So please stay tuned for that. But before we get there, let's talk about the Legend Anthology event. So this event is a second round. I think most people agree that this is actually a nice little break from, ranked play, with Telements, branded, Pistios coming out, Dragon Link, all over the show, pretty crazy. So just have a step back, go back into another era, which is GX. So you'll see the ban list for this event is slightly different because they obviously ban certain cards for the sake of balance. Because basically, I see with this event, basically anything that's anime related, it's basically in, and anything related to that anime deck is not banned. So pretty much your Dark Magician, your Blue Eyes, Sacred Beast, Cyber Dragon. Obviously certain cards like Cyber Dragon Infinity is obviously banned, so you can't use that card, but everything else in Cyber Dragon is pretty much there. And yeah, there are other, obviously Heroes is another great deck as well, perfect anime deck from Jaden. But we are using Dr. Will and Crowler's deck, which is Ancient Gears, which is an Earth Machine deck, which has pretty much going second, it can basically dominate your opponent. You kill them, insane attack points, and yeah, they literally don't have an answer. Obviously Maxi and Ash Blossom is not in this format, so you pretty much can go ham with all your combos. And the nice thing is Ancient Gears has some support with other engines that I'm running in as well, because it's an Ancient Gear fusion deck, yes, but it's also an Asigas and also some link play. So definitely there's a bit of Infinitracks, which is always good for any Earth Machine deck because it just brings so much. They'll also add a bit of line of play. And also just for follow-up as well, because it's sometimes if one play ends, you also have another play as well. Then you also have the Machina engine as well, with the Machina Fortress, and obviously your Meta Cruncher. Obviously Citadel is banned because it would just be broken if we had to run Citadel as well. But yeah, Machina Fortress can basically hold the fort, and yeah, that's pretty much why I like this deck so much, because it actually one of the first decks that I actually built in Master Duel way back when. If you guys know from my earlier videos when I started the channel, I did have a bit of a compilation showing how this deck works at full power, and that was obviously early in the game. So you can, even the games like Eldritch and stuff like that, this deck can actually do pretty well. So yeah, not bad. Again, it's a 60 card build because, like I said, this deck, it's really good. Not so much going first, but going second, it's insane. If your opponent doesn't know what they're doing and you use up all their negates, they pretty much, they don't know actually what to negate because nothing really stopped this deck, Even if you want to play through next, you can still OTK your opponent, and yeah, it's insane. So the potential is definitely there. So I'll explain to you the lines when we do the test stands to see what plays you can do, but definitely this deck can go and put on crazy high attack, huge damage, and yeah, it's just a fun deck to play. Now obviously it's no way the best event deck, because definitely there's Sacred Beast, there's Dark Magician, there's Blue Eyes. Those decks are pretty powerful. Even Dinos is also pretty powerful because obviously from Hasselberry as well in the anime as well also play Dinos, so Dinos is still pretty strong. But obviously they do have limitations like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and so on and so forth. But again, I wanted to go for something different because otherwise I would have just played a Marinesis deck, which is still playable. But yeah, I wanted to do something quite different and just to kind of bring it back to the GX themed Legend Anthology event. So okay, let's not waste any more time. I'll explain the deck list, the monsters, the spells and traps, and then we'll go into some test stands afterwards. So stay around for that. If you like this type of video, like I said, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and comment down below what deck you are playing in the event. And if you are not playing the event, maybe you're waiting for the Synchro event, what deck you want to see next and what deck are you most excited for. But yeah, let's not divulge any longer. Let's talk about the monsters. So the first monster on the list you can see on the screen is Super Express Bullet Train. So why is this card so good? Well, it's a level 10 Earth Machine, got 3000 attack, pretty high. and it's a special summon if you control at least one Earth Machine monster. So the downside is you can't have two different types of attributes, so it must be Earth Machine, minimum one. Then you can free special summon from your hand, so it's a nice extender, and also it has a nice graveyard effect, because if the card is in your graveyard because it was sent there that turn during the end phase, you can target any machine monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand except itself. So it's pretty insane, right? So you use it for follow-up play, and then you also have something to recover from at the end. So in case something happens to your board but you use Bullet Train for some sort of a combo line, you can recover any machine monster in your grave, which is pretty insane. So that's pretty cool. That's what I run one of in the deck, because yeah, it's pretty insane, right? I think it's actually even limited to one if I'm not mistaken, because it's actually that broken. So yeah, I think Konami knew why this had to be back at 3. Like, yeah, just be insane. Then we have Heavy Freight Train Decorain, another Earth Machine level 10, 2800 attack, 2000 defense. This one here is pretty cool, because they say if the Earth Machine monster's normal special summon on your field except during the damage step, it's again a free special summon. So you can actually time it to you. So if you normal summon, free special summon this card. If you special summon, also if it's in your hand, free special summon. So it's pretty nice, right? But the original attack becomes half. Not really important. What's important is the Xyz effect, because if this card was detached as an Xyz material and sent to the graveyard to activate that monster's effect, you can target any card your opponent controls and destroys it. And remember, it's not once per turn. So if you have 2 Heavy Freight Train Decorains in your Xyz monster and you detach to activate an effect, it will activate multiple times. So it's pretty insane. So we're only running 2 because we don't want it to be too bricky. So having 3 is unnecessary. So I think 2 is just fine. Just for follow-up play as well, and also just for additional search targets as well, which I'll explain later. So that's the level 10s that we run in the deck. We don't run any more level 10s, so I think that's perfect there, because we also have level modulation as well to also get to level 10. So I'll explain the extra deck what the targets are, but yeah, that's it for the level 10s. Then for the level 9s, we have 2 Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. So this card is a level 9, 3000. It's pretty insane. It has pretty cool effects. The first one is if it was tribute summon using an Ancient Gear monster, it can attack with piercing damage. So that's nice. If it was tribute summon using a gadget monster, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. So it's not that turn, each battle phase, right? And if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or traps and monster effects until the end of the damage step. So the nice thing about Ancient Gears, the one thing that's going for them, you'll see most of the effects that say during like the damage step, you cannot activate certain cards. So this one says you cannot activate spell or trap cards and monster effects. Most of them would say you cannot activate spell and trap cards until the end of the damage step. So if your opponent wants to respond with the spell or trap card and your Ancient Gear monster is attacking, you basically can't do anything, which is insane. And then this one stops monster effects as well. So any hand traps for some reason, they cannot activate. And then the bonus effect is if at the end of the damage step, if this card is attacked, or if this card attacked, you can destroy one spell trap on the field. Now normally, you can either chain your own if Gear Town's on the field, because Gear Town summons a monster when it's destroyed, or you can destroy one of your opponent's back row, which is insane. So if you have multiple, then it's cool. That's why we ran 2. Because again, sometimes you want to have one in your hand, get rid of it for a fusion, and you can revive it back with a monster, which I'll explain later in the extra deck. So it's a pretty cool card. You can summon it off the Anchor Drill, which is insane, because this also has an EQ effect, but I'll talk about that later. So yeah, pretty good. Only need 2, you don't need 3. Perfectly fine. Then we have Machina Metal Cruncher, a level 9 again. This one, if you have no face-up cards, you can normal summon without tributing, but obviously defense becomes 1800, which is perfectly fine. If this card is normal special summon, you can reveal 3 Earth Machine monsters from your deck. Your opponent adds one of them to your hand. So it's pretty much you search whatever you think you need, and then obviously hope for the best. You can also literally just pick 3 of the same monster, and your opponent has no choice but to add one of them. So if you need a certain card, what you need, then it's perfect. So it's pretty useful. But yeah, it's the nice thing is it's a searchable monster, and you can definitely get some advantage off of that. So normally the target you'll go for is your Dozer, which is obviously starting all your plays, or just a card that you need that maybe you might have. So you can even put a fortress in there, or maybe a gear frame, or whatever card you need. Then obviously we have the heart and soul of the deck, which is obviously the deck that's named after it, Ancient Gear, right? Ancient Gear Golem. So this is the iconic monster that Dr. Duel and Crowler used in the first and last duel against Jade and Yuki in the anime. So if you don't remember that, I recommend you watch the first and the last duel, because there's a bit of storytelling there, so it's pretty insane. So obviously for entry into the graduation, for entry into Duel Academy for Jaden, they had to face against Dr. Duel and Crowler, and they used this monster and used the same monster as well at the end of the series when Jaden was graduating. So it was pretty insane. Nice nostalgic monster. It's a pretty broken card. 3000, level 8. You cannot activate any spell or track cards until when it attacks, and it affects piercing battle damage. So it's pretty insane, right? So yeah, that's just pretty cool card. The only downside is you cannot special summon the card, but hey, that's perfectly fine, right? Then we have the next counterpart, which is Ultimate Pound. Again, Gear Golem again, cannot special summon. This time around, it doesn't have the effect where you cannot activate spell or traps until the end damage there, but it can inflict damage up to twice per turn, which is insane because it does piercing damage still, and after twice per turn, if it destroys a monster, you can attack again. So it doesn't attack on the monster, you just have to discard a machine monster, which is insane, right? And if it discards a triple battle or card effect, you can add one polymerization from your deck to your hand, and if you do, add one other ancient game monster in your graveyard to your hand. So again, good follow-up, right? So it's pretty cool. So it must be destroyed on the field by a battle or card effect, so you just have to see what happens there with that. So that doesn't have to be your opponent, it can be anything. So it's pretty cool there. Nice monster to have. Then we have Ancient Gear Hydra, level 7 monster Earth Machine. This one has a similar effects. You cannot activate spell and traps until the end of damage there, but it has, again, unique effects when you distribute it with the Ancient Gear monster or with the Gadget monster. So if it's an Ancient Gear monster, if it battles an opponent's monster but was not destroyed, you can banish the monster. Insane. If this card was distributed by using a Gadget monster, it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. So it gains the effect of most of the broken monsters in the game where you can attack all monsters your opponent controls. And it's crazy, right? So if you're tribute summoning this with an Ancient Gear monster and a Gadget monster, you pretty much have on the top of it, because you can just banish all your monsters, because this card will be at least 2700, and most cards in the game won't have that kind of high attack unless they boost the attack, but can potentially banish your entire opponent's field, which is insane, right? So you're probably wondering, how do we get a Gadget monster and an Ancient Gear tribute at the same time? Well, there's a card running the deck that will give us that ability, so we'll get to that card later. Then we have Machina Fortress. This card is pretty insane, right? It's an old school card, but I think most people would know it, right? You can discard any machine monster whose level equal 8 or more, including itself, then special summon this card from your hand or grave. So this card plus any machine that you don't want, put in the grave, summon itself for free. Pretty cool, right? And it's not once per turn. All these effects are not once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. Cool, right? And before resolving your opponent's monster effect that targets this card, this face-up card, look at your opponent's hand and discard one from it. This card is pretty cool. Love this card. This card is amazing. So if you play Earth Machine, this is a card you're gonna run in all your decks. So like, this is just great. You can start your combos and potentially disrupt your opponent if you know what you're doing. Then we have Ancient Gear Beast. This is a level 6 target, 2000. Cannot be special summoned as well. And the unique effect with this one is it negates the effects of monsters destroyed by battle with this card. So if there's an effect that floats when an opponent's monster is destroyed, then it summons a monster from deck or add a card to your hand, it's negated. So that's something important there, including in the graveyard as well. So if it says sent to the graveyard or destroyed, it basically negates anything. So it's pretty cool. Nice card to have, but yeah, it does come up. Then we have the 2 kaijus. Now, why do I call them kaijus? Because it's Santa Claus, right? Well, it's not Christmas come early, no. It's just that it's the only kaijus that we can use, because right now the kaijus are banned in this event, which is understandable, right? So it's a free special summon from the hand to your opponent's field in defense position by attributing one monster they control. So if you have multiple, you can tribute multiple monsters. The only downside is if you summon it this way, during the end phase of this turn, you can draw one card. So be careful. Do not if you know you're not going to have lethal or whatever, do not give the opponent this card, because essentially you will be giving them a free draw, which you don't want that. So obviously this card is useful to get rid of problem monsters. Sometimes you don't need it. It all depends on what the opponent's playing. If they're playing a crazy monster that's unaffected by everything, you know, you can't deal with the big attack, just give them this Santa Claus, and then you're good to go. They either will quit, or they'll just be like, oh geez, I just spent all my resources getting a big monster, and then get kind of kaiju. So this is kind of your kaiju for the event. So I would recommend Santa Claus for any kind of events like these, because that's the only way we can get rid of problem monsters, because obviously all the big cards, like evenly matched, all that stuff is all gone, so we can't use that, unfortunately. So yeah. Then on to the Infinitracks, we have one Tunneler, level 5 Earth Machine, pretty cool. The Infinitracks, the level 5s, the Tunneler, the Dozer, and the Trencher have a unique effect where you contribute any Earth Machine monster to special summon itself from the hand, but they all have unique effects. So Tunneler is pretty good because it's like a pot of greed for the deck, because it can banish this card from the grave, target 5 Earth Machine monsters, shuffle them into the deck, draw 2. This card, you'll see, it will gain popularity once the new Super Heavy Samurai support comes, because that's going to definitely boost the deck a little bit in Master Duel. So you saw already, for those who play TCG or follow the TCG, this card basically was crucial in the Super Heavy Samurai deck, because they would have an insane engine, full combo, and then reshuffle everything to start afresh again. So it's a nice thing to have, especially in this deck which has multiple monsters. So it's always good to have that recursion of drawing 2, reshuffling your engine, and starting over again. So it's pretty insane, right? So that's a pretty cool effect for Tunneler. So you don't need more than one, because you do have ways to recover it back. So you can use it at maximum twice in a duel. But yeah, it does come up. Definitely it is useful to see, okay, maybe a certain card that you need that's quite key. Then we're playing playing 2 Infinitrack Brutal Dozer. Now why do we play 2? Because it has the same effect as Tunneler, to special summon from the hand, tripping an Earth monster, but it's a unique effect because if it's special summon from the hand, you can special summon one Infinitrack monster from your deck in defense position, but its effects are negated, which is perfectly fine, because sometimes you just need a further extender to go into a rank 4 exceed, or rank 5 exceed, sorry, or into a link play, or you know, monster on the field to level modulate, which I'll explain now, because obviously we have the level 5s, then you also have the level 2 and the level 4, which I'll explain, right? Then we have another Ancient Gear Engineer. So this card is in for a target for Anchor Draw. So this card basically says, negate any trap effects that target this card, and if you do destroy it, again, cannot activate spell trap cards at the end of the damage step. And at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked, you can destroy one spell trap your opponent controls. So it's pretty cool, right? So it just has to be attacked. Doesn't mean you have to destroy anything if it just attacked. So if you're in the defense position, destroy a opponent's monsters, opponent's back row. Pretty cool, right? Then you have your Infinitrack Trencher, which has a unique effect where you can banish this card from your grave, target one level 5 or lower Infinitrack in your grave, special summon. It's a free monster reborn for your Infinitracks, right? So it can either start your follow-up, or it can just be a monster that you need to start up your Infinitracks just to get on board and to follow up your plays. So that's why we run one of, you don't need more than that. Then Ruffian Railcar, this is a level 4 Earth Machine. The effect on field not really that important because you can affect damage to your opponent, but you cannot the battle phase that turn. So turn 1 is perfectly fine using this card, but turn 2 not so much because you want to go for game, obviously. But the useful effect is actually in the graveyard. So during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there that turn, you can add any level 10 Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand. So we can add our Heavy Freight Train, or we can add our Super Express. So we pretty much have 2 options there, which is nice to have if you haven't got them already. So yeah, pretty cool. And then we obviously have Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede. This is another pretty cool card. So the next 2 cards now I'm going to explain will be pretty insane for the deck. So if it's normal special summon, you can target any Earth Machine monster in your grave, special summon it, except itself, right? But negate its effects. Now why is this important? Because this monster has an effect where you can target one other face-up monster you control. So any monster, not just a machine. The level of that monster of this card becomes the level of the other. But you cannot declare the attacks of monsters except with Xyz monsters. So just be careful when you activate Stampede's effect. just know for that turn you're not doing any fusion summoning. You're going to be, if you use the effect to level modulate, you cannot use fusion monsters that turn or link monsters. You can only attack with Xyz monsters. So you can use your other monsters for the effects for combos, but if you want to attack with link monsters and fusion monsters, you cannot that turn, only with Xyz monsters, which is totally fine because most of the time you're gonna have pretty insane combo already. So you only want this card either to level modulate, either become level 4, level 8, level 10. So we have options, right? So it depends what's on the field already. So if you have a level 5, make it level 5. Level 4, you keep it level 4, right? If you want to make it level 9, you can make it level 9. There's options, right? So that's the beauty of that deck. So you only need 2, don't need more than 3, or more than 2, sorry. Then Infinitrack Anchor Duel, which this card is just insane because when it's normal special summon, you can special summon any earth machine from your hand, any earth machine. So whether it's level 1 or level 12, doesn't matter. So it can pretty much summon any earth machine from our hand if it's in our hand, and it doesn't negate the effects, so it will trigger all the effects that need to be, and it's just insane, right? And also it's a search target for Ancient Gear Box because it has 500 defense. The same with Tunneler as well. So it's pretty cool, right? And also it has an effect of level modulation where you can target one machine monster though, not like Flying Stampede, which can target any monster. Anchor Draw says we can target a monster, take the levels of that monster and this monster and combine it. So if you have a 4 and a 5, you have level 9. If you have a 4 and a 6, you have level 10, vice versa. So you can see how the math goes. If you have 2 level 4s, you can make level 8. So you see that's the beauty of this, and it doesn't lock you into any specific archetype or lock or attribute. It just level modulates and you can exceed something to anything, provided you haven't activated any other effects that lock you out for the turn. So always be mindful of that. So be careful when to use certain effects because I will explain it, especially when you go to certain combo lines, which you'll see in the test stands if you want to summon certain monsters, so that it doesn't conflict yourself in terms of what you want to do. Then we have Ancient Gear Wyvern. If it's normal special summon, you can add any Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand, except itself, but then you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn. So just always be mindful when you activate that effect. So if you're going to go turn 1, activate Ancient Gear Wyvern, make sure you set your cards before you activate, otherwise you cannot set your trap cards that you need necessary, right? And it's pretty cool. You cannot activate monster effects on the damage step, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so it's a pretty good searcher, searches all your cards, so it's pretty good. Then Scrap Recycler. This card is insane, right? Because when it's normal special summon, you can send one machine monster from your deck to your grave. So any machine. Pretty insane, right? Then once per turn, you can shuffle 2 level 4 Earth Machine monsters from your grave into your deck, draw 1 card. So it is a scrap deck, but it is a scrap card, but it works very well with Earth Machines because essentially the combo would be Anchor Drill into Scrap Recycler. Scrap Recycler can send a machine that you need, starting all your plays going from there. So pretty insane, right? So it's a pretty utility card. I like it a lot. Yeah, if you play Earth Machines, you definitely run one of this because it can literally start your plays and even for extending. So it's pretty insane. Then we have 3 Ancient Gear Frame. So this card is essential because it can search 2 things, right? So first, you can discard a card, add 1 Ancient Gear Golem or 1 spell or trap that specifically mentions it from your deck to your hand. So what are the targets normally? The targets for this will obviously be Ancient Gear Golem, Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, or Ancient Gear Fusion, because Ancient Gear Fusion says you can fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from extra using monsters from hand or field. But if you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound you control as fusion material, you can use monsters from the deck. So it literally searches your fusion. Pretty much. If you already have Golem, you search for fusion. If you don't have Golem, you search for the other. So it just depends what you need. So sometimes you search for the fusion, sometimes you search for your Golem, right? Because Golem is needed for a fusion monster. So you either search that or you go for your other one. Then you search for the Ancient Gear Fusion. So it all depends what you search for. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of people don't know this, but it actually has another effect as well. The other effect is, right, if you have a monster that is if this face-up card in under control leaves the field because an opponent's card you can special summon up to 3 Ancient Gear Golem and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound from your hand. So if for some reason it gets banished or gets destroyed by an opponent's card, you can literally summon your Ancient Gear Golems and your Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, ignoring a summoning condition. So you notice these two monsters cannot be special summoned, but with Gear Frame's effect and another card's effect, you can actually special summon them from your hand if certain conditions are met, which is pretty insane. And it has come up 1 or 2 times, so yeah, it's pretty insane, right? Then we have Ancient Gear Gadget. Ancient Gear Gadget is pretty much the reason why we have Hydra and Reactor Dragon in the deck, because on normal special summon we can declare a type of monster, spell, or trap. This turn, if your monster attacks, your opponent can activate spell or trap cards or monster effects, whichever was declared until the end of the damage step. So you have to call which one you want to do. Then once per turn, you can declare a gadget monster card's name. Until the end phase, this card's name becomes that name. So guess what? Ancient Gear Gadget can become Red Gadget, Green Gadget, and Yellow Gadget. And remember, Ancient Gear Hydra and Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon have effects when it's tributed using a gadget monster. So Ancient Gear Gadget is a gadget monster. You don't even have to use the name of red, yellow, and green. It already has a gadget in its name. So Ancient Gear, number 1, and it's a gadget. So it's 2 in 1. So you don't need to actually do anything. So it's pretty insane, right? So this one card will give you both the effects of Hydra and Reactor Dragon in addition. So it's pretty insane. So that's what we run 1 of, as it comes up often. Then Gearbox. It's a pretty cool card, but it's not good if you draw it. But not the end of the world, right? So here, Ancient Gearbox, what the effect basically says that if this card is added from the deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add 1 Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand. So there are a lot of targets in the deck, right? There's Anchor Drill, there is Tunneler, there is Trencher. There's so many targets, right? Which is just insane. So this card is not really a brick, but if you draw it, yeah, it is a bit of a problem. But you can obviously summon it out, use it for modulations, put it in the graveyard, use the effect maybe of Express Bullet Train to bring it back from your graveyard to your hand, and it will still trigger its effect. So it's pretty insane, right? Or you can add it with Gear Wyvern, and you pretty much have your place from there. Then we have Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, which is your polymerization on legs, because on normal summon, 600 damage to your opponent inflicted. Then you can attack with it, but you know when you're attacking with it unless you need to. The main effect is during the turn, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using your hand or field. So working polymerization, it's just insane, right? And yeah, there's nothing more to say about this card. It's pretty cool. Then we have our famous hand trap for these events, Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. She's insane because, again, we know Maxi and Ash Blossom are not in the game, but people are summoning out big monsters with huge attacks. So it kind of keeps them in check a bit because they know that I'm not going to be killed in that turn if for some reason I have no monsters. So if I have her in my hand and then we start summoning a lot of monsters, I like to gain some life points just to have a little bit of a chance in the game. Although life points don't matter in the games, but it's good to have just to kind of have some interaction with your opponent. So yes, while they can't bring off, I'm busy getting life points at the same time, and at the same time I might be OTKing them in the process. So yeah, interesting. But she definitely does come up, and you guys know from the channel before, I used to play Spooky Dogwood a lot, but now currently in the meta game now it's a bit tricky because yeah, it's not as viable as it was, but in these events it's pretty fun. Then we have the Infinitrack Harvester. Harvester is another insane card. This card basically on normal, so special summon, it can add an Infinitrack monster from deck to your hand, so it pretty much starts your whole combo. Infinitrack Harvester can search maybe a Trencher, search a Dozer, which is normally the target you go for. Then Dozer will trigger itself, send the Harvester to grave, special summon, Dozer will special summon Trencher or a Tunneler or even the Anchor Drill, but not really. It's normally the level 5 as well. And then start your play. So a 3-of is pretty cool. No issues. And again, it can also level modulate just like your Anchor Drill. You take level 2 plus level 8, level 7, get 9, get 10, vice versa. So it's pretty insane. Cool. So it's a nice deck, a nice monster, pretty insane. Nothing to complain about. It's got nice defense as well, so also good. Then we're playing Effect Veiler. I only have 1, but you can play 3 if you want to. You can definitely replace the Dogwood with another Effect Veiler, because Effect Veiler is legal at 3 because she was an anime deck for Yusei in 5Ds. So she is legal in this event, so it's pretty insane. So those are the monsters. Let's go quickly with the spells. We have Overload Fusion. Very simple, right? The whole purpose of this card is to summon a Dark Machine Fusion monster by banishing from your field or grave. And the target obviously is going to be your Chaos Ancient Giant, which is a Dark Machine. Insane card, like the core boss monster of the deck. Next to Gear Golem, of course. Then we have Greater Polymerization. So because those monsters normally require more monsters on the field, so we can use monsters, we can fusion summon a monster using 3 or more monsters from your hand or field as fusion muses. So it must be 3 or more monsters. So we have 3 targets for that. We have Megaton Golem, we have Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, and we have Chaos Ancient Giant, as more than 3 monsters are needed, because this one requires 4 Ancient Gear monsters, this one requires Golem plus 2 Ancient Gear monsters, this one requires 3 Ancient Gear monsters. So at a minimum we have 3 targets, so depending on what we have, we can choose a monster that we need to, and we pretty much have protection for our monster that we use with this card, because it gains the following effects: cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if this card attacks the defense plus monster, inflict piercing battle damage. But obviously it's not really needed for certain cards like Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem and Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, because they already have that already. But the main thing is, I like this card because it gives Chaos Ancient Gear Giant basically immune to everything unless you out it with high attack, because it's 4500. It's unaffected by spell and traps, even your own. So we can't give a boost like limited removal, something like that, to give it a boost, right? So if we have a card inherently being indestructible by card effects, then it's pretty cool. Nice little blanket protection. And if they don't know about it, then they don't know about it. Then we have obviously the OG Polymerization, pretty standard, right? Then we have Ancient Gear Catapult. This is another good card. If you have no monsters, you target a face-up card you control, which is normally in the spell or trap zone or field zone. Destroy it if you do special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So the target you normally will go for is a Wyvern, or your monsters that cannot be special summoned, which is obviously your Gear Golems and maybe your Beast. So yeah, or even just a Reactor Dragon, depending on what you need. But yeah, sometimes it does come in to start your plays. So, and also you can do the same thing. You can banish a card from your grave, special summon a token, but destroy the card that you select to control. So it's pretty insane. In Ancient Gear Fusion, I already mentioned it before. It basically allows fusion summoning from the deck if you control a Gear Golem or Ultimate Pound. If not, you just have a normal Ancient Gear Fusion, which is going to either your Howitzer, which is unaffected by card effects. It only requires two Ancient Gear monsters, and you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. And if it's destroyed by battle, not by any effect, because remember, to be unaffected by everything, it's only by battle, then you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, again, ignoring its summoning conditions. So it's pretty cool. And so we have 2 of, because we do have options since we have run a lot of Ancient Gear monsters. So, and we do have Gear Frame to search basically a poly for free, so that's pretty insane. Then Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is Monster Reborn. It's targets a monster in the grave, special summon it. Limited removal. Double the attack of all machine monsters you control. So it's only when you're going for game and you know for a fact, okay, yes, I'm going to kill my opponent. You go all out, you hit limited removal. You're pretty much done from there. Then Urgent Schedule, unfortunately, is limited to 1. If it wasn't limited to 1, I would have played 3, because this card is just insane going second. Because if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense position, but negates effects for the end of the turn. And you cannot declare attacks the turn you activate this card except for machine monsters. So be very careful again, because you are running non-machine monsters in the extra deck, so be careful of that. So you can then do all your plays, but you cannot attack with those monsters except for machine monsters. Then if the set card is destroyed, you can add a level 10 machine monster from your deck to your HUD, which is perfectly fine. Normally we don't set it, we normally just like to leave it for the follow-up play to summon from the deck. So it's a one-off, unfortunately. Then heavy forward, it pretty much starts your plays, because when it's activated, you can add any Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand. So if you don't have your Harvester or your Anchor Drill, you can play this and you can search it, right? So it starts your whole combo. Then you can either target a machine monster you control, then activate one of the effects. Either change the battle position or attach the card as a material. So sometimes it's situational. It comes up there and there. So depending on what you need, battle position not so much, but attaching to a card as a material, that can become useful. Then Ancient Gear Fortress is another cool card, because during the turn an Ancient Gear with normal special summon, they basically become immune to everything, where you cannot target it with card effects, cannot be destroyed, and you cannot activate cards or effects in response to activation of Ancient Gear monster cards or effects. So basically, they call it spell speed 4, where your opponent cannot respond to any of them when they are summoned that turn. And if it is destroyed in the spell and trap zone, you can special summon any Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard that can be special summoned. But you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for Ancient Gear, so always be careful that those restrictions are very important. So the moment you destroy this card, you summon Ancient Gear, you cannot summon any other monster for Ancient Gear, which is important. Then this card is pretty much broken. Outrigger Extension. So why is this card so important? Because your opponent cannot target machine Xyz monsters you control with card effects. So it's an inherent thing, right? Then once per turn, you can target an Infinitrack Xyz monster you control, special summon from your extra deck one machine monster that is 2 ranks higher than that target, and that target will be used as material. Cool. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except Earth machine monsters, even if this card leaves the field, and is treated as an Xyz summon. So what is this basically? It's a rank up magic, but for Earth machines. So if you have, let's say, a level 5, you can rank up to level 7. A level 7, rank up to level 9. A level 9, rank up to level 11. And guess what we play in the deck? We run a level 9, so we can rank up to level 11. So we have Infinitrack Earth Slicer, which requires 2 level 9 monsters. If Outrigger Extension on the field, we can literally rank up this card into Super Dreadnought, Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liebe, which is a level 11 monster, right? Or rank 11. So instead of going the level 10 route, we can actually just go straight from 9 to 11. Because sometimes we won't always have the level 10 play. So if you have level 9 and you have Outrigger Extension, you can always rank up very quickly. So it's pretty cool. Then we have 2 Gear Town, where we can normal summon for 1 less monster than the tributed monster. So that's pretty cool. Then if it's destroyed, it can summon a monster from anywhere, hand, deck, or grave. Insane. Then cross-dimensional duel. You can target Ancient Gear monster you control, banish it. Then during the next standby phase, return that monster to the field, and it becomes double its original attack. So why is this useful? Because if, let's say, during the end phase, your opponent wants to do something and they don't have any plays, you can take a big Ancient Gear monster, banish it, your standby phase come back, they double the attack. So it's during the next standby phase. So try and do it during your opponent's turn, so that during your standby phase it comes back and it'll be double the attack. So it's pretty insane, right? And if one Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card instead for protection. Then we have Impermanence, because it's limited to 1, but it's still good. Ice Dragon Prison doesn't come up all the time, but you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it, and if it's the same type as that monster, you can banish from both place fields. Then we have Machina Overdrive, which we can target a machine monster we control, spirit summon either Metal Cruncher or Fortress from the deck or the hand, but we obviously are going to be destroying the other targeted monster. And as a nice little graveyard effect where you can target 3 of your banished machine monsters all in your graveyard and then draw 1 card, shuffle it back in the deck. Pretty cool. In Ancient Gear Reborn, if you have no monsters, target Ancient Gear monster in your grave, special summon it. So it's pretty cool. And it gains 200 attack even if it leaves the field, and you can only control 1 of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Then we have the extra deck. So starting with the main boss monster of the extra deck is Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Requires 4 Ancient Gear monsters. Must be fusion summoned, unfortunately, and cannot be summoned other ways. Unaffected by spell and traps. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects during the battle phase. That's insane. So it just shuts them off completely. So when it's battle phase, they shut off completely. So no hand traps, nothing. Then this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. So basically clear your whole field. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. So it's literally in the name. Chaos. Unleashing chaos means we're going for max damage. 4,500. If you're in defense position, you're in trouble. If you're in attack position, you're not 4,500, you're in trouble. So you're gone. Pretty cool. Then ultimate ancient gear golem requires ancient gear golem plus 2 ancient gear monsters. Must be fusion summoned. This one can be revived from monster reborn. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage, and if this card attacks, you cannot activate spell and trap cards until the end of damage there for your opponent. So it's pretty cool. Then if this card is destroyed, you can target one ancient gear golem in your graveyard, special summon it in a summoning condition. So of course, it's a upgraded version of ancient gear golem. So of course, it took 2 ancient gear monsters. If it's destroyed, it comes back in the original form. So it's pretty cool. Then we have ancient gear megaton golem. Then this one says if a card attacks, same thing, cannot attack until end of the damage step, but no piercing damage though. But it does say that if this card was fusion summoned using 2 or more ancient gears, gear golems, or gear golem ultimate pounders material, it can attack that many times each battle phase, so it's not limited to one phase. Then if this card was fusion summoned and leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 ultimate ancient gear golem from your extra deck, ignoring summoning condition. So you can basically just fire away, summon this card, go into this one and that. So it's pretty cool. Then Howitzer, 2 ancient gear monsters, unaffected by other card effects. You can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent, and like I said before, if it's destroyed by battle, summon ancient gear from your deck during summoning conditions, which is always insane. Good for follow-up certain card that you need. Then the Xyz monsters, because we have level modulation and some cards obviously are banned, so we need to kind of adjust to also adapt to the meta, because obviously we are playing against maybe stronger decks, so we need to have a playstyle that either we can attack directly or go for high damage and have some sort of negation if need be, so depending on our turn 1. So this card is pretty insane. Juggernaut Libe. It can use a rank 10 Xyz monster as a material to basically exceed. Then its effect is you can detach a material from this card, gains 2,000 attack and defense. So this is 4,000. It can go to 6,000. And downside is you can only attack with this card for the rest of the turn. Then during each battle phase, this card can attack monsters up to the number of Xyz materials it has +1. So if you have 4 materials or 3 materials on this, always add 1 to it. You can attack that many times on monsters, right? So it's a pretty insane effect, right? So if you have like 4 monsters on field and this thing has like 5 materials, it can attack pretty much everything. So it's almost like attacking all monsters your opponent controls, because at minimum you're going to have 1. So 1 + 1 will be 2. So you'll have 2 attacks at least with this card, which is insane. At 6,000, that's quite huge, and it's pretty much game from there, right? Then we also have the Gustav Max, which will require 2 level 10 monsters once per turn, detach a material, and 50,000 damage. Use this card, rank up into Juggernaut Libe, and if you have an open field, you pretty much have lethal damage from there, so pretty insane. Then we have Earth Slicer. Earth Slicer, 2 level 9 monsters requires. When a monster destroys this, when an opponent's monster is destroyed by battle, you can attach that monster to this card as material. So even all the Infinitrack Xyz have that same effect, which is insane. Then you can use these other effects depending on the monster you have. So for Earth Slicer, you can detach any number of materials from this card, target as many cards in the field, destroy them. So not your side, also the opponent's side as well. Then if this card is in graveyard, you contribute 1 Earth Machine Link monster, special summon this card in defense. Now unfortunately, the Goliath, the Infinitrack Link 1 monster, unfortunately was banned because it would give your machine monsters targeting or destruction protection. So that would have been the target. I would have run Goliath, but unfortunately it's banned. But basically that's what the last effect says, where you can tribute a machine link monster. You can even tribute the Ballista if you want to. There's also a machine, and you can also summon it back also, because it has good defense as well, so it's not bad. Then we also have number 38, Hope Harbinger. 2 level 8 monsters. So this is again level modulation, right? And once per turn, when a spell, a card, or effect activated, you can negate. And when the attack is declared on the monster, you can detach material from this card, change the attack target to it. And if another face-up exceeds monster you control is destroyed, you can boost the attack of this monster. So it's pretty cool. So that's one level 8. The other level 8 we run is also number 23, Lancelot. Dark Knight of the Underworld, 2 level 8s. It can attack directly while it has material. And then when this card afflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy it. And once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell, subtract card, or monster effect activated, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation. So yeah, it's a pretty useful effect if it comes up, but I don't think I summoned this as much, but definitely it will come up. Then River Stormer. This is pretty much again the heart and soul of your deck as well, because it's 2 level 5 monsters, which is pretty easy to get, and its effects are pretty unique because you can attach material from this card, take any earth machine monster from your deck, either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. So if you want to have a follow-up for next turn, you can send your bullet train straight to the graveyard, or you can add a monster that you need from your hand, earth machine, which is insane, any. So it's pretty cool. And normally you would detach your trencher, because you'll probably have an Infinitrack in your grave to activate the effect. Then you can use a revive effect or the monster reborn, which is insane. Then we have another level 4, which is Heavy Armored Train Iron Wolf. This basically says target a machine type monster you control, it can attack directly. So if you have Juggernaut Libe, this card will allow it to attack directly, and yeah, it's over for your opponent basically, because 6,000 plus any other damage. So yeah, that basically, or any machine exceeds monster for that matter. So and that's not even exceeds a machine type monster. So even your Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, right, can also be affected by this. So it's pretty insane. So all your machine monsters, if you target it, it can attack directly. And if this card in your position is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add one level 4 machine type monster from your deck to your hand. So it's pretty cool. Then we have Blackluster Soldier. This card is only good because we have run a lot of high level monsters, and if we're not restricted, we can summon this card out. And while this card was summoned using a level 7 or higher monster, we cannot, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and also going to be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So pretty interesting there. And when it obviously destroys a monster by battle, has unique effects. Either gain 1500, make a setting attack on the next turn, or banish a card in the field. So yeah, pretty cool, right? Then we have Ancient Gear Ballista. Requires 2 Earth Machine monsters. So you see we have a lot of Earth Machines in the deck, so we can easily access this card. And when it's link summoned, you can add a Ancient Gear monster or Gear Town from deck to your hand. So you're either searching Ancient Gear box, or you're searching in any specific Ancient Gear card you're looking for, or Gear Town. So why would you search for Gear Town? Well, it says you can target a spell and trap you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls. Destroy that card, and if you do, that monster becomes 0 attack and defense until the end of the turn. So that will help you going for game, or for a problem monster that has high attack for some reason and is not unaffected but can be targeted. It can make it 0, then it can attack at least for some damage at least. And then if you pump it with Gear Town, it combos nicely, just put something from the deck and further extend your plays from there. So that's why we have Ballista in the deck. And also it's useful for feature support as well for the Super Heavy Samurai as well, because it searches box, and box will search your targets that you need, either Tunneler or the Coral Jade or whatever. So yeah, stay tuned for that. When that support comes, definitely there's going to be a deck profile on Super Heavy Samurai, so definitely be on the lookout for that when that support comes. But we probably won't get it now, but definitely this card you'll see it a lot. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the deck profile. It was a long discussion. I just want to make sure I explain all the cards and why they're quite useful. So this is it for the deck profile. Let's go into the test hands. All right, so this is the first test hand I'm going to go through. I think I'll do 3 test hands in total because I don't want to make the video too long. So you'll see obviously the games when I posted, also how I did in the event. And I will say the nice thing about these hands is you can start with pretty much anything. So you can see in this hand I have my Ancient Gear Anchor Drill, I have an Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, and I have an Infinitrack Harvester. So you know what I can do? And I have a heavy forward. So I basically have 3 starters. I have Anchor Draw, I have Reactor Dragon, and I have Harvester. So Harvester, heavy forward, and Anchor Draw are 3 starters. So the best thing to obviously to start for me in this hand, what board yet can make? Well, I will start with heavy forward. I would add an Infinitrack monster from deck to hand. So normally you would use Harvester to add the Dozer. So I'm not going to add the Dozer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another Infinitrack Anchor Draw because I want to actually use the effect now to search for, to summon the Harvester. The Harvester is going to add the Dozer. You could also search for a Tunneler, but remember you need targets in the deck as well, because Dozer can only target from the, can only summon from the deck, not from the hand. So always be careful. You need to have more names in the deck. So always get your starters out so that you can play your other ones later. So heavy forward's going to add another Drill. Okay. Then we're going to use Drill's effect to summon out the Harvester or Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. It's not necessary here because I want to get my Infinitrack line working, because obviously this is turn 1 now. If it was turn 1, is what you would do. Make turn 1 Harvester's effects on activate on summon, and to add now the Dozer, right? Now I can play the Ancient Gear Fortress if I want to, so you can play it if you want to, but it's probably not going to be useful because if we do summon Ancient Gear, it basically will not be targeted and destroyed, which is insane. Now we're going to use Dozer's effect, which will lock us now out of summoning for the rest of the turn except for Earth Machines. So be careful when we activate this effect. So we're going to tribute either the level 2 or level 4. I like to tribute the level 2 because the level 4 can have a modulate. So I'll tribute that, summon the Dozer. Dozer, now because summon from the hand, will summon another Infinitrack from the deck. So what are the targets? You see we have Tunneler, Harvester, and Trencher. So I'm going to summon the Trencher, right? It's going to have its effects negated, but I'm going to use it to go into rank 5 Exceed, right? And I'm going to summon an attack position. Then I'm going to detach the Trencher from the River Stormer, and I'm going to add any machine monster that I want. So what are the targets you would add normally, right? So here's my thing, right? If you're going for the ideal turn 1 play, so what are the targets we can add? We can pretty much add any Earth Machine we want, right? So we must always remember that we've used River Stormer's effect. We can either send it to the grave, the Earth Machine monster, or add it to our hand. So the nice target you could do is add your Ancient Gear box, right? So your box you could add. Or you could add your Mechanic Fortress, discard the Ancient Reactor Dragon, and summon it back on the field. So in case something happens, you can do some plays, right? So it all depends on you. So for me, let's say for the sake of this video, I'm going to add the Mechanic Fortress to hand. So I'm going to add a card to the hand, right? And remember, we do have the Trencher effect in the grave to activate if we need to. So we can use the effect of Trencher to revive back the Harvester, but that will be for follow-up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the effect of Mechanic Fortress to discard itself, or I can discard the entire Reactor Dragon, because remember it says I can discard machine monsters whose levels equal 8 or more. So 8 or more means I can discard itself plus on the machine, or I can discard an entire monster whose levels exceed 8. So I'm going to discard the Reactor Dragon, and I'm going to summon the Fortress in attack position. Okay? So what plays can we do? Well, if you look at the extra deck, we can only come into Ballista. So obviously now we don't have an opponent now to summon a monster, but if you're going second, what you could do, you can link off the Anchor Drill and the River Stormer into Ballista. Ballista will add box or Gear Town, and then you can go from there. But because we have the Ancient Gear Fortress already in the grave, on the field, we could pop the Fortress instead of adding the Gear Town. Then we can revive back actually Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, because it says you can summon from the hand or graveyard. So Reactor Dragon is in the grave, so you can summon it. So that's pretty much what I would do turn 1 with this hand. Now obviously it's not the perfect line, but the nice thing about this deck is there are so many lines you can go to. You don't have to always go with one specific player, but this is the basic Infinitrack line. Also, it depends what your opponent's playing as well. But because there's no hand chips like Maxi and Ash Blossom, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But the Infinitrack line is pretty much the same with Harvester and Dozer into this combo. So what you search depends on what you need. So always look at what your opponent's playing. But basically, this is the basic line you would go for. Let's do another test hand. All right. So here we have Machina Fortress. We have Ancient Gear Catapult, which is not useful because we don't have a spell or trap with us. We also have Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede, which is good for going second. Very good, because you see we have a level 10. And also we have the Harvester. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to show you what's going to happen going second, right? So I'm going to use the Infinitrack line again. So we're going to normal summon the Harvester. We're going to add the Dozer. And you've seen this line before. Dozer is going to go into a rank 5 XC because you're going to summon at level 5 from the deck, which is always going to be your Trencher. Then we're going to go into the River Stormer. Then River Stormer is going to activate and effect detach material. Always discard the Trencher. And now we can decide what we want to do. So here's the thing, right? Because we have Super Express Bullet Train, right, which will be a free special summon because we do control Earth Machine, I'm actually going to add the box to the hand, right? So I'm going to add Ancient Gear Box. And we use Ancient Gear Box effect because we added it from the hand, from the deck, except for drawing it. We can add a Earth Machine with 500 defense or attack. So what's the target we're going to go for? We can actually go for our Anchor Drill, right? So Anchor Drill 500 has 500 defense, so that's a good search target. So what is good for next turn? So here's the thing, we can use Machina Fortress to discard machine monsters, but that would be unnecessary, right? So because obviously Flying Pegasus can summon it back from the graveyard, right? So what we can do is we can go Anchor Drill, because on the next turn we'll summon a machine monster from hand on special summon. So I'm going to discard the Machina Fortress, the Drill, and the box because we're done with the effect now. It's not useful for us. Summon an attack position. And now we're going to wait for next turn. So what we're going to do, we're going to let our opponent play. Let's say they summon the Railroad, right? Cool. And they do nothing, right? Cool. They leave pause for turn and they do nothing. So now we're going into the game now, going for game. So here is what we're going to do. So firstly, we're going to use the effect of Trencher. We're going to summon a level 5 or lower Infinitrack. So because we have Anchor Drill in our grave, we're going to use that effect to summon Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill on summon is going to summon a machine monster from hand, and that target is going to be the Railroad Stampede, right? Now be careful here because it says if the Flying Pegasus special summon, it can target a monster in a machine monster in our graveyard, but its effects are negated. So we don't want that, right? We actually want to have space for the Super Express Bullet Train. So I'm going to say no to the effect, right? So because now we control Earth machine monsters, we can now activate the effect of Super Express Bullet Train. Because what we want to do, we actually want to go into our Super Dreadnought Juggernaut Libe, right? So what we first need to do, obviously, first go with the line of the Ancient Gear Ballista to reduce this monster attack by 0. So because remember we don't have heavy freight train, we can't destroy this monster. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the effect of the River Stormer first. We're going to detach the Dozer. We're going to add a monster that we need. So let's say for argument's sake, we're going to add a, let's say we can add any monster that we want because pretty much we're going to be going for game with this. So let's say we add a beast, whatever it is, whatever monster you want to add, you can add, right? Cool. Now we're going to go into the ballista play. So we can see we have options. We have Iron Wolf, which our monster can attack directly. We're not going to go for that play. We have Sword of Chaos because we do have a level 7 or higher, not restricted. Now we're going to go ballista. We're going to use the Stormer, and we're going to use the Anchor Drill. Why? Because we're actually done with the Anchor Drill. Okay. Ballista is going to add the Gear Town. Okay. So the Gear Town is going to be activated. So it's cool. Now we can use the effect of Gear Town because you see in the graveyard we have an effect for River Stormer because now it's a link monster on the field. We contributed. We're going to use the effect of the ballista to target the gear town, target the monster, make its attack and defense 0. Then because gear town was destroyed, we can trigger a monster from the deck. So we are going to summon. We're going to summon the. Let's see what we have. We have Ancient Gear Ballista. We have the Beast. Let us search for the Ancient Gear Wyvern. And Ancient Gear Wyvern is going to search for our Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. So why would I do that? Because remember, we haven't used our normal summon yet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Ancient Gear monsters. So you know where that's going, right? So before we get there, remember, we use the effect. If we use the effect of Stampede, we cannot attack with anything else except for Exceeds monsters, right? So what we need to do first is level modulate. So how do we level modulate? We take the effect of Stampede, we target the bullet train, and now we ask which level we want. We want the level of 10. So you see, it will ask you which level you want. You want to change the level of the other, so we want 10. So now we have 10. Now we can go into the Rail Cannon Gustav Max, put this level 10, and we can go discard or detach the bullet train. Now inflict 2,000 damage. Now we have 6,000. So all we need on the field is 6,000 damage, right? So I'm gonna do a BM play here. I'm gonna go into that, inflict 600 more damage. I'm gonna activate the effect of Hunting Hound to fusion summon into our Howitzer. Why? Because no point summoning Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, because remember, we cannot attack for the rest of the turn except for Exceeds monsters, right? So no point summoning this monster, is going to sit there, right? Because if we didn't lock ourselves, we could have done something else. So for this one, we're actually going to go Howitzer. So we're going to use the Hound and the Wyvern in defense position, inflict more damage to your opponent, 4,400. So now what's left now to do? You can literally go for game just for 3,000 and 2.5, but we're going to go for the extreme player, right? We're going to go and rank up into Juggernaut Libe, and we're going to detach any monster, doesn't really matter, and we're going to gain 6,000. So now no other monster can attack. So what's left for us? All there is to do now, pretty much go for game, right? And remember, we do have 2 attacks on monsters if there's another monster, but basically we have enough damage on board. So even without Libe, it's pretty much GG from there. So you see, that's full game, and we pretty much had Machina in case something happened, Fortress in case something happened, Ballista for follow up. If it gets destroyed, we have another Ballista in our deck, and we also have follow up in the graveyard as well. You know, so there's pretty much unlimited plays. We also have Howitzer. If it gets destroyed, can summon back an Ancient Gear from the deck to start our plays again. So, and Machina Fortress can revive itself pretty much as long as you have machine monsters. It's pretty much insane, right? To discard. So yeah, that's pretty much this hand, showing what it's like going second, summoning, you know, Juggernaut Lead with the lines that we went with. Obviously there's different lines. It all depends on you. If you do get disrupted, always remember you have different options. You don't have to always go for a certain number of monsters on field. Always go for the alternative if you can. So let's do one more test hand and then we'll wrap up the video. Okay. So you can see here, this hand was pretty okay, right? Because we kind of have a line in a way, because we have heavy forward as a starter. We have 2 Ancient Gear fusions, which is okay. We also have limited removal, which is good for going for game, and we have Ancient Gear frame. So what would be the best players? Now, I showed you the Infinitrack line already. Let's just show the Ancient Gear line, what we would do turn 1. If you don't have any Infinitracks, let's say. So what I would do, I would go for the frame. I would actually activate heavy forward, because I actually want to discard a monster I don't need. So I want to get Tunneler in the graveyard as soon as possible, because remember, there's no call by the grave. So I won't be summoning Tunneler from the deck anyway. So I'll add it to my hand, which is fine. Then I will discard it because it's for free, right? Because it's only useful in the grave. Then I can add a monster that I can add Ancient Gear Fusion, which I already have, or another monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem or itself. So cross-dimensional duel or Ancient Gear Golem. So I'm going to actually add Ancient Gear Golem. So I'm going to go for the normal play using Ancient Gear Fusion to summon Howitzer. Okay, so why is Howitzer so good? Because it's kind of like a stall, because Yes, turn 1, you inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. Cool, right? But remember, it's unaffected by other cards' effects, so if you use limited removal, it's not going to do anything. But it has a nice graveyard effect. It can be revived with Monster Reborn. So although it says unaffected by other card effects, it can be revived under Monster Reborn. So always remember that. Then the play that you basically can do when it's destroyed, you can revive Ancient Gear monster. So you do have follow-up. You don't just have no follow-up. You also have 3 monsters in the grave. If something happens, you have follow-up play as well for next turn, because normally you'll summon the Wyvern or Reactor Dragon, or depending on what monster you need, you have a monster. But this is pretty much another line you can do turn 1. And yeah, I think that kind of showcases a glimpse of the deck. Now, of course, there's infinite lines you can go. It all depends what your opponent is doing. So I always say, take the time to learn the deck, practice it. So I'm very familiar with this deck, so I know in my back of my mind what the combo lines are. I can really see, okay, can I go for game here? Can I see what's the smart play? Because sometimes you have to outplay your opponent, and you'll see from the games like that I played, some of the opponents were very smart. They were playing pretty powerful decks, but I was kind of one step ahead, because there was even a time where you actually can summon Chaos Ancient Gear Giant and Juggernaut Leap in the same turn, with them both be able to attack. So you pretty much have full lethal irrespective of what happens, because this shuts down monster effects in the battle phase, and this can attack multiple times. This can attack multiple times. So it is insane. Also, you have nice follow-up as well. You sometimes summon Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. You also have Megaton Golem that can float into that. So there's tons of options. You also have Soldier of Chaos. You also have the other level 8s. If turn 1 is not also good, you can also just take the Anchor Drill, go into a level 8, have it from there. It's also good. It all depends what line you have and what options you go. So you can try the deck out. If not, that's also fine. I'm just showcasing you guys what I'm cooking up for this festival. If I do max out everything, because I'm almost done with the festival actually. I just have a few more games, and then pretty much I'm done with the Legend Anthology, getting all my gems, because obviously there'll be more games later on towards the end. So I'll probably be playing a different deck. So if you want me to do maybe Master Live, some games just to show what I'm doing with that, because this deck is pretty fun. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys for watching this. If you enjoyed the deck profile or the test hands, or if you enjoyed both, let me know if you're going to try the deck out or not. And again, feel free to put comments in. Of course, I'm not an expert. There might be some things that I might have missed, which is totally fine. Again, this is just me, a normal Yu-Gi-Oh player, just playing what I enjoy. So if I don't agree on certain cards that I'm not playing, and you feel you can replace those cards, feel free. Definitely let me know. I appreciate all feedback, and don't be afraid to say no. You're wrong here, this and that. So I'm not, like I said, I'm no expert. So, but I do have fair knowledge of this deck. So if I definitely missed something, or I could have maybe missed a tech card there and there, yeah, definitely let me know. And yeah, that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and happy dueling.